Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. I'll tell you what, we have got a wonderful show in store for you today. 2 hours of college football, basketball, baseball, a little recruiting thrown in there. Nonstop, all sports, no politics. We're your safe space from all that garbage. We love doing this 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Check us out, sidelines.live, or just Google Rob Browne, R-O-B, B-R-O-W-N-E, Sidelines. You'll find us out there. We are growing because we have great guests, and we're blessed to have great listeners and great sponsors as well. Got a great lineup today, starting batting in the leadoff position. We got Frank Duffy and the coach, John Brady, former coach at Samford, LSU in the Final Four, and Arkansas State. Now the color analyst on the LSU Basketball Radio Network. We'll also, Frank Duffy, coming in from New Orleans now. I know that Frank is down there on a research trip studying Mardi Gras. And he said that the only way to learn about Mardi Gras is to totally immerse yourself, wear the clothes, the costumes, ride on a float, see what they're drinking, and you got to sample it all. So Frank should be joining us here in just a minute. And he probably feels like a new man because it's a great day. But Frank should be checking in a moment. Mitch Davis will check in the second segment, talking some basketball, SEC and college basketball in general. Doug Dean joins us in hour number 2, and Buddy Martin at GatorbaitMedia.com as well. So let's get going. Follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. And Coach yes. John Brady is with us right now. Coach, it's college basketball. We're getting deep into the season. We've got most teams are down to their last 6 or 7 games. First off, as a longtime coach, you understand, I guess, the importance of pacing yourself throughout the season. You saw what happened with Alabama on the road a couple of nights ago in Knoxville, their worst shooting performance of the year. They had a big man out. Tennessee had 2 starters out, but kind of tell us what do you see happening in this final 5 or 6 games of the SEC basketball race?
Well, I think the final 5 games are important for several teams to make the NCAA tournament, or particularly for seeding purposes for the better teams. But, you know, Alabama, Tennessee, and A&M, to me, are the 3 best teams consistently with what they've done. But going back to that Alabama at Tennessee game the other day, it was a huge win for Tennessee. They'd lost 2 games at the buzzer, which is an incredible way to lose games. But I thought that particular game, defense beat offense on the home floor. Yeah. And I think Alabama may not travel as well as Tennessee, because Alabama at home shoots it better because they rely on the 3 so much.
Yeah.
And Tennessee was able to take them off the 3-point line, make them beat Tennessee in Knoxville with 2s, and Alabama wasn't able to do it. So, you know, I still think defensive-oriented teams, rebounding teams that take care of the basketball still have a place in college basketball, and I think Tennessee exemplified that the other day against Alabama.
Yeah, and I think Doug Dean pointed out to us last week, who'll be on the second hour, SEC teams rank 32nd out of 32 conferences for intra-conference game 3-point shooting percentage, and 28th out of 32 from 2-point range. Man, and that really showed up on the road. You're right, with Alabama against Tennessee. They looked, I hate to say this, but they did. They looked lost, and they're the number 1 team in the country. You're not going to win every game, but I'm sure they're going to bounce back. I would, I don't know what the line is. I don't care who Alabama's playing today. I would load up on Alabama.
Yeah, it's a must-win for Alabama. Not a must-win, but they need to get back on the winning thing. But yeah, I'm sure. I don't know if Alabama's at home. I know Tennessee's at Kentucky, Florida's at Arkansas, A&M's at Missouri, Auburn's at Vandy. Those are some big games for those particular teams in terms of seeding. Kentucky needs to win it. Arkansas needs to win at home. Missouri needs to beat A&M if they have a chance at all to go to the NCAA tournament. And then, Auburn at Vandy. Vandy is surging here recently, and they're playing really well. The big fella in the middle for Vandy is really good. He's really emerged as one of the better players in the league. And if Auburn loses that game at Vandy, they got 4 left after that are going to be critical for them, in my opinion. If they do get in, it'll be a lower seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt has always been one of the most difficult places Auburn plays at. I never forget when I was in school at Auburn, I walked through the Coliseum and Sonny Smith was breaking the team down on Thursday for practice. And he said, guys, I don't know what happens when we cross that state line from Alabama into Tennessee on the way to Vanderbilt. But a lot of y'all just forget how to play. It's just one of those tough places to play. And I asked, now before we go to Frank, I want to mention something. I asked somebody, what's the deal with Vanderbilt's arena in basketball? Why is it designed the way it is? So I checked with an architect that I know, my dad. He said, you mentioned the Vanderbilt basketball arena yesterday. I think it was designed as a theater and adapted to serve as an arena as well. It stretches large assembly design standards to the limit and violates about all design standards. The spectator floor, you would agree, Coach, the spectator floor is lower than the court floor, making visibility from the lower seats, close-up seats, almost impossible. Therefore, the benches are placed at the ends, which helps a little. It is still a disaster. Now, Vanderbilt people love it, but that's the technical version right there. Frank, jump in here with us. How you feeling?
I'm a little hungover, as Coach Brady can probably attest to you around here. This has been a 5-week marathon here in Carnival. I rode in Coup d'etat last night, and the old song from Petticoat Junction comes to mind. I'm Uncle Joe, and I'm moving kind of slow at the junction. No, you're right. Vanderbilt, the arena at Vanderbilt was like a snake pit. And those guards would get out there and hit those 3-pointers on you. I mean, it was almost like there was nothing you could do. When Vandy's rolling, they're hot. But Coach will tell you, Coach and I were sitting out here having a couple glasses of wine on my balcony about 3 weeks ago when Alabama lost in that Big 12 SEC shootout, and they came out and hung about a 60-point win on Vanderbilt. So, yeah, you're right, Rob. I might take the tie today. That might be a good idea.
Particularly if they're at home. I mean,
yeah,
that's when they really shoot it, at home.
Yeah, Georgia's at Alabama today. So that's going to be I think they won when they lost 93-69 at Oklahoma. They came back and beat Vanderbilt 101-54. I think that's the largest margin of victory in Alabama basketball history for a conference game.
Coach and I were stepping into that room right next door watching that game, and we couldn't believe it. The score kept mounting. Every glass of wine we had, Alabama had another 10 points on Vanderbilt.
Man, well, that's the truth,
Well, think about this, guys. Around the SEC, in college basketball, there's no arena like what they have at Vanderbilt. And that's the opposite ends. Coach Brady, you coached there. So what's it like when you're way down here and your team's way down there? Well, you figured it out, I'm sure.
Now the coach can get up on the sideline where the benches are supposed to be and coach from the sideline. Back in the day, you had to stand on the baseline and your team's away from you the first half offensively. Now you have them coming at you the second half, but the first half, I had players shoot the ball and they say they couldn't hear me call anything. So they'd just go up there and fire one every now and then because they used to excuse, well, coach, we couldn't hear. I said, really?
That gave Strohmeyer plausible deniability.
Well, I didn't mind if he shot it. It's them other cats I was worried about.
Yeah.
Hey, but Vandy, the configuration of the arena is one thing, but when they put 15,000 in there, it takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
No question. And that's the thing that we love. Coach, I don't know what it is about basketball, but when it's cold and, you got the fire going, drinking some good Hams beer, a good glass of wine, whatever, it's as good as it gets watching college basketball and going to the games. I love I love basketball. And, what you did at LSU, you followed Dale Browne. Have you been watching SEC Hoops History on SEC Network? Any of those episodes yet?
I've seen parts of them. I was sitting, I don't know if I was in a bar or somewhere, and the sound wasn't on, and I saw the piece on Dale Browne, but I didn't hear what he was saying.
Yeah, he talked a lot about just coming to LSU, and he said he would go around the state of Louisiana and show up in people's neighborhoods and replace their basketball nets with purple and gold basketball nets. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he was outside the box in that day, way outside the box.
Yeah, he was.
He's from South Dakota, isn't he?
And it worked for him. He's from Minot,
Yeah, Minot, North Dakota.
North Dakota, yeah.
You know what Minot's famous for? It's home of one of our SAC Air Force bases. They got the big ones under there. I'm sure balloons can see those like the one a couple of weeks ago, but moving right along, nothing to see here as we have the round table with the lookalike from the original Star Wars bar movie scene. But look, we got to think about this, Coach and John. And when you look at the SEC right now, you're at LSU and you're a color analyst on there. You mentioned something last week that, I hope it doesn't happen, but they basically flipped an entire roster, and you hope they don't have to go through that again this year. LSU, and this is just a spectator's view from 40,000 feet up and away in a balloon. It's still, that brand is so powerful because of Stromile Swift, Glenn Davis, Shaq, Stanley Roberts, Pete Maravich. That goes a long way. How similar is the interest in basketball at LSU, the desire to be great, as it is at Alabama and Auburn and Tennessee? Are they similar or are they totally different?
Well, I've always thought football schools, which LSU is one, obviously it's been that way forever. I think you'd always use that as a positive. We brought players on campus, and it's still to this day, for a football visit weekend, it's the most incredible experience you can find. And you show young men, players, recruits, the passion and the care and concern LSU fans have for sports here, all sports really. You can't duplicate that too many places in the country. So we always use it as a positive. I wanted football team to win every game, win a national championship. The more your name gets out there, the better it is. And then it's up to the basketball coach to evaluate players in the right way, get them on campus, develop a connection with them with your personality, and then get them to sign. Now, it's changed a little bit now with the NIL, and we've talked about that. We beat that thing up to death. And
yeah.
I used to think we could get players at LSU because of the brand, because of the interest the fans have, because of the relationships we built over 2 or 3 years of recruiting that particular young man. But now I think the money and the NIL has dwarfed that to a degree. And when a player's first response to the coach is, what kind of NIL deal can you get me? It never sits right with me. I always thought, I didn't have great relationship with all the players, but I thought some of the players we did sign was because of the relationships that we built. And today's game is a little different than that, but still the LSU brand is as good as any in the country. And I'm all for, you look at our sports here now, we got baseball's number one. Our gymnastics team just upset last night and won a big meet. Football's tremendous. Just across the board at LSU, it's good. And Matt McMahon finds himself in a difficult place because, as we've talked about before, one thing about LSU fans, they're not real patient and not real understanding. And you better get it together after your second year or so, or, you may not be long for this world. But that's the nature with the money that's being paid to players and the money that the coaches are making today. It's changed the dynamic a little bit than it used to be.
And Rob, going back to 81 with Dale Browne's run, you had teams going to Philadelphia for the Final Four. You had 86, 87. Coach Brady's run in 06 with Glenn Big Baby. You had Tyrus Thomas. You had teams that when they make runs here, man, these fans are behind them. There's passion. That run that Coach made in Atlanta through Duke and Texas to make it to the Final
Mhm.
Four in Indianapolis. And look, we all went up there, man. I loaded up the RV. We drove that thing right downtown Indianapolis. So, LSU fans, we love our basketball. When we get on rolls, man, we're behind them Tigers. And
No question.
and it's exciting in March when LSU's playing good ball. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Coach, last week you also mentioned there's a few schools in the SEC where college baseball, I believe it was you that said this, is a bigger revenue draw than college basketball. And LSU baseball.
I don't believe I said that.
No, it
know,
wasn't you. No, it wasn't you. But what I meant,
LSU baseball's off the charts, but the
Yeah.
revenue they create is not going to match basketball simply because of the TV revenue now.
Okay.
You travel baseball, you're traveling a whole bunch of people, and basketball's not quite like that. But I think LSU over the years has been one of the few teams that has made some money in baseball, or at least broke even.
Yeah.
So, but I think football obviously is the bell cow, but then basketball, because of TV contracts, is second, and I think will always be that way. Correct.
Yeah, let me correct myself. What I meant to say, and I didn't mean to, it was that the attendance outdraws college basketball. I mean, because you look at what they do at Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, it's unbelievable. And Auburn and Alabama don't have as big a stadiums, obviously. And then you think about Texas A&M, Bluebell Ice Cream Stadium. That's a good one. But LSU, the money's certainly there, Coach. I mean, and it's incredible. But as a brand, it's one of the most valuable. Look at the Wall Street Journal, and we'll talk about it right after this with Coach John Brady and Frank Coup d'etat Mardi Gras Duffy. Yeah, guys, if you take a look at the Wall Street Journal, they made a list when Texas and OU were announced as coming to the SEC. This is like late July 2021. The Wall Street Journal put the brand values like this: Texas, $1,108,000,000; Alabama, $1,008,000,000; Georgia, $891 million; Oklahoma, $886 million; Auburn, $872 million; and LSU, $852 million. Then you got Tennessee at 728, Florida 635, A&M 541, Arkansas 463. And think about that. Arkansas has 1/10 the population that Texas does. Now, Texas, as of yesterday, I hadn't checked the latest numbers because Texas grows like no other state, but 30 million people compared to about 2.8 million in Arkansas. Arkansas per capita may be the most valuable brand in college sports, but that's a powerful statement. And if LSU basketball's rolling, Coach, I can't imagine what it's like. They're 102,000 seat bank. It's what you call a football stadium. I call them banks because they generate so much money. But when you watch this SEC hoops history series, man, it does a lot for LSU's brand.
Well, it should. I mean, LSU is a charter member of the SEC, and and it's the only university in this state. It's not like we split allegiance like Auburn, Alabama, or Ole Miss, Mississippi State. LSU has the luxury of the flagship school of the state of Louisiana, and it's funded that way by the state legislature. It's going to always be funded that way. They've invested too much here to even let it slip in any way. So, And what did the SEC split last year? $49 million to each school. It's a revenue sharing conference, and that's why every team has an opportunity to do well. When Texas left the Big 12, they weren't a revenue sharing league, and Texas had their own contract with TV, their own support system, and now they've gotten into the SEC. And with those two teams that you talked about joining the league, if they're splitting $49 million now, 3 years from now, there's no telling what the number may be. So it's just an incredible league, top to bottom. The fan base at LSU is as passionate as any in the country. And if basketball wins here, they'll put 10,000 a night in there, just like they're packing it for baseball, gymnastics, Kim Mulkey, what she's doing. I mean, it's just an incredible situation and a place to coach. But you better win. You just better win.
Kim Mulkey's one of those coaches that's so good. It doesn't matter what sport, but in this case, women's basketball. I mean, if she ever came on this show, I'm taking a pen and paper and taking notes. I mean, look up the term definition winner in the dictionary. I mean, that's what that is. You're right. And I think it goes for SEC fans. It's why football, Norman Jetmanson, our friend, produced a documentary last year. It unveiled late April of last spring called Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled. And it's fabulous. I went to a fabulous viewing of it at Hyde Chapel at MUS last Thursday. Coach, they had for the Sewanee alumni group up in Memphis. And they talked about why football caught on so quickly in the South. And the narrator, he's great. He's an old Episcopal priest there in Birmingham. And his voice is a lot like Howell Holbrook, the great narrator. And he said, football caught on quickly in the South due to the large Scotch-Irish culture because there was a lot of fighting and violence, and it lent itself to drinking and a good time. It's the same way about college basketball.
That sounds like the life of Frank Duffy.
I was going to say, I experienced every bit of that last night.
Frank, I have it on good report that you have been selected to be the Grand Marshal of a nude Shriners parade in Terre Haute, Indiana next week. Can you confirm or deny that?
No, that's too dry of a county. I don't think that's going to happen.
All right, Coach. Now, all right, looking at this SEC race, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas A&M, team that's kind of the Carlton, the doorman on the old Rhoda show. You just see them winning, but you don't. They're just not there. And you look at the record. But they're 11-2 is Texas A&M, and they beat Arkansas a couple of nights ago. The fans out there, I don't know if they can do all those cheers that I've yet to ever understand at A&M. But Buzz Williams, do you know him? Because he is one basketball coach. He's a Texas native, and what he does off the court to help a lot of people is to be absolutely told about.
Well, I told him last year at the SEC tournament, they've lost 8 in a row. Then he corrected that team and won like 11 out of his last 13 games. And, that's hard to do as a coach in the middle of the season. I thought he should have been SEC Coach of the Year based on the coaching job he did. Now, usually they give it to the guy that wins the most games. But I think this year he's one of the candidates for SEC Coach of the Year. If there is a surprise team in the league, you can make a case for Missouri a little bit. But certainly, I think the job that Buzz has done at A&M this year may be the best in the league. And I told him that the other night after the game. Coach Browne and I went in and spent about 30 minutes with him after the game. He stayed on the court and talked to us for about a half hour when the game was over. So, but I always think he's a good coach. I think and it's not a place that has a lot of great basketball tradition. I mean, you rolled off some LSU players' names that are top 50. 75 that ever played in the NBA, and you didn't even mention, Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul. You didn't even mention his name yet. So A&M, I don't know if you can roll players off your tongue like that played there in basketball. So the job he's doing there at a place that's not really known for its basketball, I think is remarkable.
Yeah. In fact, I just got a text about 5 minutes ago from a listener who said, Browne, how can you not mention Chris Jackson? And it's just, and I think about Johnny Jones, God, I mean, I remember LSU, like I said, I'm an AM radio junkie. AM 870 WWL, LSU basketball, football. It's just nothing's better than watching with the radio on. And you can sync your TV now. You can stop it and sync it, Frank Duffy. I guarantee you do it.
John Ferguson was the voice of LSU sports for so many years. I mean, he was the sound of WWL. He really was. Yeah. And of course, John will tell you, growing up in Macomb, Mississippi, I mean, you could pick up WWL in the day in Macomb, and at night you can catch it all the way up in Chicago.
You know what? Did you know you can hear WWL, no lie, up in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia?
Yeah,
and that's where the Acadians came from. But that signal will reach there at night.
Well, and look, we didn't even talk about Pete Maravich.
I know. I mentioned it.
That record of 44.2 points per game will never be broken, ever. It's unconscionable, and that was before a 3-point line.
Yes.
Yeah. And he played 3 years. Let's say he played 3 years. Yeah. There's a freshman out there now that's shooting a bunch of balls. It's at a mid-major school I read about, and he may break the record if he can average 42 a game the last 4 games. So, but that's a 4-year guy as opposed to a 3-year guy, and I think that record will never be touched. What Pete did here in 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had that discussion yesterday. It was on there about the all-time record, and freshmen were not eligible. He did it in 3 years. You still think about, do you remember another great player at that time? I think they even did a 30 for 30 on him, a kid out of Memphis, Overton High School, Johnny Newman, that played at Ole Miss.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, that's what we all grew up with, were these guys. Pete Maravich was so cool. I mean, everybody. That was that. Kyle Macy. Man, when you watch this SEC hoops history, and they talked about Jack Goose Givens and Pete Maravich and all these, I mean, you got to watch it, people.
Dan Issel, Melvin Turpin. I mean, Sky Walker.
Dan Bowie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think about the one time when Auburn beat LSU with Shaq, and Auburn, that was the biggest thing ever. When Shaq and Stanley Roberts came to town, I mean, it was like, the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin. I mean, everybody wanted to be there. But yeah, I think when you watch this series on SEC basketball, it's going to make people way more aware than ever before how much tradition there is down here. Coach, you mentioned again, Alabama, A&M, Tennessee. Arkansas, the last 2 years, has been to the Elite Eight. Eric Musselman. Talk about why he's so successful, other than the fact he's got incredible gene pool starting with his mom and dad.
Well, one thing he's about, he's kind of a throwback guy. I think they like to pressure defensively. They rebound the ball. I think that's where it starts with him and the effort he gets out of his players and how hard they play. Now, the other end of the floor, they've struggled a little bit, as every team in the SEC, not every team, but most of the teams in the SEC have difficulty scoring it this year. They don't shoot the ball as well as some teams have in years past. But, Musselman's team, they play hard, they're athletic. If they could be consistent in terms of playing offense on that end of the floor, I think they would have a better season. But I think they're a bubble team right now. You got Auburn and Kentucky, I think they've got some work to do.
Yeah.
And Tennessee's at Kentucky today, and I think that's a big game for Kentucky to win, to enhance their chances of getting in the tournament.
Coach, I'm not in charge of doing the hiring, but any chance we could get you to start doing games on TV on SEC Network and pair you up with someone like Joe Klein? How cool would that be? We had Joe on the show Tuesday.
The problem you have there is who's going to do the play-by-play. It won't be
Frank. How about Frank? Frank will do
it. Frank can do it.
Hey, we just got a text here. This is great. From the legend of Hokie Gajan. Remember him? And says down in Opelousas, Louisiana, he says, ask these LSU guys about Buddy D.
Oh, well,
Well, Frank can speak on that now.
But Buddy D, when I was growing up, Buddy Diliberto was the sportscaster of record in New Orleans. And back when the Saints were horrible, he used to have a show that would come on right before Monday Night Football, was called From the Press Box. And every week he would have the Saint of the Week. Now, the Saint of the Week might only have 2 tackles. I mean, that's how bad we were back then. The Saint of the Week wasn't any big deal. But he used to give them a present every time they would come on, and it was a Longines Whitnall official New Orleans Saints wristwatch. He couldn't say wristwatch, could not say it. There was just no way he could say it, and he had the worst New Orleans accent. But we loved him, right? And so he would come on and talk about the horses at the fairgrounds. He was just a raconteur. Well, through the years of him talking, he said, "No way the Saints will ever make the Super Bowl. Pigs would fly down Poydras Street." And he goes, "And if the Saints ever win a Super Bowl, I will don a red dress and run down Canal Street." Well, Buddy died a couple of years before the Saints won the Super Bowl. And when I tell you, there had to be 1,000 guys in red dresses the weekend after the Saints won the Super Bowl running down Canal Street for Buddy Diliberto. That's what an icon he was in this city.
Well,
so it was.
Hey, back that 1980 season, y'all all remember Monday Night Football. When you bought your groceries back then, the Saints were so bad, and the groceries checkout line, they never asked the question paper or plastic. It was all paper. Remember those fans with the bags on their heads?
Oh, paper was easy to cut out the eye holes. You couldn't do it with plastic.
Archie got sacked 11 times on Monday Night Football.
One of those.
Yeah.
Hey, thank God I never put one of those on, but I tell you what, I couldn't blame those who did. That was some embarrassing football. And by the way, we had to beat the Jets on the second to last game of the season not to go 0 for that year. And this wasn't long after Archie Manning and Tony Galbraith and Chuck Muncie. That was the first time we actually did 500 in a year, and then we regressed the next year and then win a game. It was crazy down here.
Of course, you can't also forget Hap Glaudy. King Edward Cigar Time is 7 o'clock. I mean, so what's funny is the way the state of Mississippi, Coach, I've got a friend, Lonnie Lewis Smith, Mr. Ole Miss Rebel from Macomb, Mississippi. I don't know if you know Lonnie, but he grew, if you take the state of Mississippi and you break it down south of Jackson, they look to New Orleans.
Yeah, they do.
Up to mid-state is central. Then the northern, what they call the top, they look to Memphis. And then you got the people on the coast. Then you got the hill country, the pine country, the Delta. It's a cool.
My parents had a little farm in Tylertown, Mississippi for about 10 years, right before my mom passed away. And Coach will tell you, I was just right down the highway from Macomb. In fact, that's where we would go. We'd be in Macomb one way or go to Columbia the other way. And it's all New Orleans, news and stuff. So Macomb is very big New Orleans area.
Yeah, and big LSU. Coach, I know you said you've got a tight schedule today because of the LSU game, but man, real quick, how many teams from the SEC you think have a legitimate shot at least to get to the Sweet 16? Just give me a number. We'll talk next week, and it'll be changing, but at this moment.
Well, I've said SEC would get 5 in before the season started. Everybody's trying to push 7 or 8, but I don't buy that. 6, I think, is maybe the number it's going to fall. And in terms of teams advancing, a lot of times it depends on the draw and depends on the bracket and who you face. That can be an important factor. But I like Alabama and Tennessee, and I like my sleepy team A&M. So I like those
they can
three
be tough out
and do some damage.
Yeah. Coach, listen, y'all have a great game today. I hope you get a W. I think this one. Yeah, I know you do, but we love having you on here. Look forward to doing it again this week.
Hey, Frank, tell our good friend Scott hello, would you?
I will, but I saw him yesterday. I'm going to see him again today.
All right, baby. I'll see you, baby. See y'all.
You bet. Thank you, Coach. As Frank continues his research project on Mardi Gras, Frank is a scientist, and he's trying to immerse himself in Mardi Gras. If you get on the floats, and what are they drinking? What are they eating? And I don't know how the research project is going, Dr. Duffy, but
Well, we will be at Dickie Brennan's in the Garden District today for Iris and Tux at Dickie's sister's place, their family home in the Garden District, right off of St. Charles and 3rd. And we will be continuing our studies.
Yes, continuing our studies. I'll never forget the first time I was at the Royal Orleans Hotel with my parents, and my father ordered some Irish coffee. The guy brought it over there, put it down, and lit it on fire, and it was served in a glass, and it exploded all over his lap. And he just was like, well, what are we going to do about that? Mitch Davis is going to be with us coming out of the commercial break. Great stuff with Coach John Brady. Always love having him on with Frank. And so we'll be back after this quick break talking some serious college basketball with Mitch Davis on his way to probably Oxford, I guess, right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Browne back with Professor Frank Duffy, who is researching Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and he said his studies will continue shortly at Dickie Brennan's. Also from the Bourbon Institute of Kentucky, Dr. Mitch Davis joins us as well. I'm not sure what his studies involved last night or this morning or today, but the Bourbon Institute is proud to bring on Dr. Mitch Davis and the Mitch Davis Show as we continue to study the wildlife of Southern culture.
Rob, Frank, good to see y'all. It's been a long time.
Good morning.
I partied a little too hard last night, guys. I had a lot to celebrate, and obviously, I think Rob knows. I don't think Frank, you know, but I have been approved to cover the SEC men's basketball tournament for the first time ever.
All right, that's great, man.
At 24, 25, that is awesome.
When I first started this almost 6 years ago, the SEC men's basketball tournament was the goal. Like that was what I wanted to get to. And obviously I've been to Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, all these other great, College World Series, all these great things. And the SEC men's basketball tournament always eluded me. It always was the prize that I could never get. And found out yesterday from Craig Pinkerton that I've been approved, and the Mitch Davis Show is going to take on Broadway. We're going to have a pretty damn good time. That was already the plan for my bachelor trip, was have all the guys with me and go to the SEC tournament together. So now we're doing a bachelor trip, plus my show is taking on the SEC tournament. So there'll be a lot of partying, a lot of good time. I just moved Zip. I'm down to go watch Ole Miss and State play here in the next hour or so. So life is good. It's really good to see you guys. Happy Mardi Gras. I've got 2 king cakes in the kitchen right now, so it's a good time, guys. I'm just so appreciative. And, happy to see you guys.
Mitch, congratulations. That's awesome, buddy. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, Mitch, and congratulations as well. Buddy Martin's going to be on with us later in the show, and these writers I've told you to hook up with that want to work with you. You're 24 years old, true grit journalist. In the last 5 years, how many basketball games have you personally attended?
Oh gosh. So Rob, by the way, I'm 26. I know I look a little young without the beard. Okay. I had the beard trimmed a couple days ago. But I honestly I've lost count. I know last year I think it was 300. College football, college baseball, college basketball. I'm not sure how much it is now. In
the last 5 years.
Oh gosh, probably over 300. And I know it's been over 300. I think it's getting closer now to 400. I think out to the World Series. It's kind of helped me, and I'm just so thankful. I've grinded, and I've I don't want to sound too cocky, but really feel like I deserve this, and to get to go sit with Paul Feinbaum and go sit with follow in the same footsteps as my icons, John Ward, Jack Crystal, Kaywood Letford, walk in the same shoes as those guys at the SEC men's basketball tournament. It's going to be a pretty awesome experience. I got to share that moment last night with my dad. Everybody knows my dad got really sick about a year and a half ago, and I called him last night and told him the news, and we had a pretty emotional moment. I got to tell him, I was like, Dad, I'm going to be covering, you're going to be there. I'm going to be covering the SEC men's basketball tournament a mile from the hospital that just saved your life. And I get to cover our Wildcats make a postseason run. I said, that to me is what SEC basketball and the SEC means to me. Everybody's got a different story, but to me, it's the generational, fandom that my family has, not only of Kentucky, but the respect and love that we have for our conference. I have a lot of friends. Frank, you're an LSU buddy of mine. I've got a lot of other LSU, Arkansas, everybody. I just love this conference, and today I get to go cover the celebration stops today. I'm doing the Nick Saban 24-hour rule. Celebration stops today. I get to get back to work and go cover Ole Miss and Mississippi State and watch Ole Miss baseball beforehand. So,
it's the residue of hard work, young man. It's the residue of hard work, and you deserve it.
That's
I
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and Mitch,
Rob knows this. I work a full-time job. Other than this, I work in finance at Republic Finance, which is a great company. I love my job, and just moved to Tupelo. And during the day I'm working finance job and getting loans and stuff like that, and then at night I'm doing podcast interviews and articles.
There's our day jobs and then our fun jobs.
Exactly. My fun job is going to get me to go to the SEC men's basketball tournaments. That's awesome. So,
well, I'm gonna tell you what, we've already got a text here from excuse me, one of our listeners, Clarence Beeks. Clarence Beeks up in Wilson, Arkansas, says, I'm in the office right now working today. I want to ask Mitch Davis this question, or Frank, either one of you. I've got Baylor, Wake Forest, and Illinois in the points today. Mitch, did you feel good about that? Because he said, I won the over and points on Cleveland State last night. He's a serious bettor when he's betting on Cleveland State.
When you're betting on Cleveland State, you're exactly right. It's either you're a very good bettor or it's a cry for help. One of the two.
We don't have sports gambling here in the SIP. That's something. We have cannabis. I have not understood this. We have cannabis, we have weed, but we don't have sports gambling.
One of the guys at my float luncheon, we ride in Bacchus tomorrow night, one of the parades, and one of my guys at my float luncheon is a big guy from Boston. He comes down and flies down to ride with us. He had a big bet on the Bruins and the Predators under 5.5 and parlayed it with the Bruins. And I was like, first of all, the fact that somebody that knows hockey is down here in New Orleans is amazing to begin with. I said, so how did you hit the under? He goes, well, the Bruins scored 5. They already had 3 by the second period. I go, so you bet that the Predators wasn't going to get a biscuit in the basket all game? He goes, it worked out that way. I said, you're a braver man than I am. And he cashed. He actually cashed.
Hey, listen, that is incredible. But, the funny thing is on these bets, the other day we were talking about Bama was plus 2.5, Mitch and Frank, on the road at Tennessee. And I said, look, what does Mark Schlabach always say? ESPN.com. Guys, there are a lot of tall buildings in Las Vegas.
And they're built with your money.
Built with your money. And by God, Tennessee got after Alabama.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting bit of trivia, Mitch. Mitch, what do you think though for Clarence Beeks in Wilson, Arkansas, on his questions? You may have to do some research.
Yeah.
But,
I would hate to bet against Kansas. I'm a big KU supporter because I'm good friends with their play-by-play guy, Brian Haney. Kansas right now, if you look at the Ken Palm and you look at the offensive efficiency and all that they put out there, all the analytics, Kansas is one of the best teams in the country. I know that they've had some losses and they've had some, tough stretches, but that's college basketball. I forgot what the stat was, but I think it was whoever the last 7 or 8 national champions has finished in the Ken Palm top 10 at December 15th or 16th. And those 6 teams are UConn, Kansas, Alabama, Houston, and I think one more other, 15. And I'm a big believer in Kansas. I still love Bill Self. I think Bill Self's a really good college basketball coach. The games that fall out, and they've got college game day there. I would hate to take the points from Baylor, because KU's playing some good ball.
Kansas always whipsaws at this time of the year. Always in that mid-February Kansas always makes the run. They always do. In fact, when John Brady got off the thing, he goes, "Tell our good buddy Scott Alexander hi." Scott Alexander goes and does a lot of the games with Fox. He's Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman's producer. Well, he did a lot of basketball games back in the day, and he's very close friends with Bill Self. And Bill will always come on his show and stuff. And when I tell you, Bill Self is the type of coach that he gets as much out of his players as he can, and they are always ready for a tournament run. Always.
Yeah. But he's got, how many lives does a cat have? 9. Bill Self's got about 109. I mean, what did
he's on probation, but that's beside the point. I think as a coach, he's a great coach. Now, does he do everything the right way? Absolutely not.
Yes, of course he does. Well, what did Mark Emmert say when he awarded Kansas the national championship trophy? He goes, "Congratulations to the Kansas Bears," something like that. It was,
Mark Emmert's an idiot, though. I'm so glad he's gone.
Me too. Interesting bit of trivia, again, from Dave Cody, Bellingham, Washington, longtime sports anchor in Austin, Texas. Interesting bit of trivia here, Frank and Mitch. Ole Miss won the SEC basketball tournament with Bob Weltlich, who left for Texas afterward. His assistant, Eddie Orrin, is still Craig Way's radio analyst on the Texas Basketball Network. Bob Weltlich was last seen teaching middle school in Fairhope so he could get Alabama State tenure before retirement. Never forget, Weltlich was Bob Knight's disciple and is famous for recruiting a UT cheerleader just to fill the roster. He ran so many players off. Holy cow. I did not know that. Bob Weltlich, you remember him? I mean, but Mitch, you don't. But Mitch, Frank, you do. He was a heck of a coach. But he did win the SEC tournament. But last seen teaching high school, I don't know if it's math or English in Fairhope in order to get retirement. They didn't pay coaches back then what they pay them now. All right, Mitch, you're heading over to Oxford. One thing, you're going to the Pavilion, okay? I absolutely got to say this. Most basketball arenas and stadiums, the food is worse than Army food. But they serve really good food at the Pavilion. Raising Cane's, chicken tenders, and all that. It's a great place to watch basketball. Given the current state of Ole Miss basketball, are they going to pay you to come to the game? Or are you going to have to buy a ticket? Because it's looking rough.
How do I put this? I'm friends with Kermit Davis, and
I love the guy. I hate this for him because he has won everywhere he's ever been, and with the resources he has at Ole Miss, I mean, what's happened?
Here's the thing about Ole Miss. This is just because I've been around the program and I've been around Ole Miss fans too much. Ole Miss fans are some of the most pompous fans in the SEC. They tend to run off a lot of good people to bring in guys like Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is I like Kiffin. I think he's a great coach, but he is not a good person. He's just not. He's a slime ball. The dude's, hooking up with a 24, 25-year-old. I mean, the dude's a slime ball. Whatever.
I plead the fifth.
I won't go down the road of what I've heard, back and forth from team hotels with him and all that. I will say that Kermit was never given the opportunity that Andy Kennedy was given in terms of support. He never had the support, and it's hard to sell a recruit if your stadium is not going to have, 10,000 people for every game. It's hard to. And that's why Ole Miss is so far behind Mississippi State. I mean, Mississippi State, look at the hump. The Mississippi State is always popping. I was there Wednesday night. that place is always popping. There's always people there because Mississippi State fans care. Ole Miss fans, they care, but they only look what they did to Mike Bianco last year. They were so terrible to Mike Bianco.
Almost ran him off.
Yeah, they almost ran him off. He was a national champion. Even this year, Ole Miss fans are like, if we don't have a better regular season than what we had last year, Mike Bianco needs to be gone. Kermit deserves better than Ole Miss. Kermit does not deserve Ole Miss, and Ole Miss does not deserve Kermit. And by the way, if you guys see me pop off camera, I just got a low battery, so I need to plug in my laptop. I didn't realize it was this slow. So I'm gonna hop off the camera for just a second. Still talk. I got to just grab the charger. But yeah, I'm a big Kermit Davis supporter, and I hate what is Ole Miss turned into.
Well, I love Kermit Davis. Gordon Ford, our good friend, turned me on to him in 1988 when he was coaching out at Idaho in Moscow. And I've always watched him. He's a Mississippi State guy. His dad was there at Mississippi State. But he's just got a team, and unfortunately, they can't shoot the ball very well. They ain't the only school in the SEC like that, Frank, but they're
outside shooting. They're outside shooting. In fact, Gordon even mentioned it. Remember, he was on with us a couple of weeks ago, and he telegraphed it. He goes, "They can't shoot. Their perimeter play is horrible, and they're not rebounding. So not only are they missing their shots, they're not following them up. They're not getting to the boards.
Yeah, and Gordon just had surgery, so we're ready for Gordon.
It's almost like the guys don't get the fan support, and so they're like, "What's the point of even doing?" Our coach is on his way out. The worst thing that Kermit Davis ever did in his career, and I'm sure that when it's all said and done, I'm sure him and I'll have this conversation. The worst thing that Kermit Davis ever did was to go to Ole Miss. That was the worst career move for him because Ole Miss is a suicidal job. I mean, when you go there, go look at all the coaches that have gone there with hopes of turning Ole Miss around, and their careers have gone backwards. They get back up at the mid-major route. Kermit Davis is one of those. Looking back, I think Kermit Davis and there's a lot of not bitterness, but a lot of what if. Kermit Davis wanted the Mississippi State job. Mississippi State went the route of hiring Ben Howell and didn't want to go Kermit Davis, because of his dad, all that. Kermit Davis is more of a Mississippi State fit than an Ole Miss fit. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes, and you guys know this, in college athletics, college basketball in particular, it takes the perfect fit. Look at Kentucky. Yeah. Coach Calipari for the first 10 years was the perfect fit at Kentucky. Now he's been kind of out of touch with, reality, out of touch with the fan base, out of touch with the athletics department. But it takes the perfect fit to get the perfect program. I mean, you look across the board, you look at Nate Oates at Alabama. Alabama is a job. You have to be blue collar. You have to be tough. You have to go out there and punch somebody in the mouth to compete. Nate Oates is that guy. Would he fit in at Kentucky? I don't know, because Kentucky is more of a flashier, suit and tie, New York three-piece. I'm not a big fan of it, but that's just the job. That you have to under the job. Kermit Davis does at Ole Miss.
Raise my hand. Let me say this. You mentioned the three-piece suit. Frank knows this. The last man we know of in college basketball that still wears the three-piece suit is Buzz Williams at Texas A&M, and he's 11-2 in the conference. May I suggest, ladies and gentlemen, we bring back the three-piece suit and get rid of these warm-up suits these coaches are wearing. They look like the guys on Goodfellas or Sopranos. Hey.
Something that fell off the back of the truck.
Yeah. Never forget the movie Goodfellas when they put that suit on Ray Liotta or whatever. They goes, come on, man, you look like a fishing lure. It was so shiny. He goes, this is an Italian suit, $3,500. He goes, you wasted $3,500. I can get you my man Vinny over here for $200. We'll steal it off the back of the truck when those guys bring it in from New Jersey.
The real joke is the guy that gave you that suit.
What was that guy? Jimmy 2 times. Let me get the papers. Let me get the papers. All right, Mitch, I'm going to tell you one thing. Mitch, you remind me of a guy. Was it Frank DiCaprio? Was the great sports writer that used to come on shows? I love Mitch. Ain't going to hold back. I'm a huge Kermit Davis fan. He is a Mississippi State guy, but he's, that term's used a lot, class act, but I mean, he's just a good person.
Rob and Frank, he has.
Hold those thoughts. We'll be right back. Quick break.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection. And they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right. Rob Browne back here with Frank Duffy and Mitch Davis and Jimmy 2 times. Let me ask a question. All right, Mitch, we got Clarence Beeks on those basketball bets up in Wilson, Arkansas, asking a lot of questions. And I think what it gets down to is if you can't get guys to shoot, you're in trouble. Mitch, you've been watching basketball probably since you were, in diapers. Are we getting worse shooters in college basketball now? Because every game, if you watch one, you've seen them all. Kick it in, kick it out. Kick it in, kick it out. It's the three-pointer. And if you're not hitting the threes and you're on the road in the SEC, you almost have no chance to win.
You live by them and you die by them.
Yeah.
And the thing about modern basketball is they try too hard to live and die by the three. When you go back to watching Larry Bird, you go back to watching, Jordan, you can go back to like the Keith Boak days at UK and, Gerald Finch and them. There was a lot of, you had a big man down low and you pounded it down low. If that wasn't working, you went to the mid-range jumpers. If that wasn't working, that's when you started taking the threes. College basketball has evolved, and a lot of coaches, we see it at Kentucky. That's one thing that's really helped me about Kentucky this year is the inability by Coach Cal, or the pride by Coach Cal, that has gotten in the way of adapting with modern college basketball. And I get it. You don't want to take a lot of threes, whatever. But right now, the dribble drive offense is not working. You have a guy on the bench, or a guy that comes in now as starter, C.J. Frederick, who tore it up at Iowa, absolutely did a wonderful job at Iowa and did a lot of great things. Big Ten All-Player of the Year, All-American, all this. And all of a sudden, he gets to Kentucky, and he's not shooting the way that he was at Iowa. So what's the problem? Why is that an issue? And I think it goes down to a lot of coaches, a lot of old school coaches. Coach K leave college basketball last year. A lot of old school coaches are not adapting to the terms, not adapting to the times. Yeah. That's why you see in Alabama be the best team in the country. That's why you see Purdue struggle in the NCAA tournament, because Purdue is so predominant. They got literally a big Big Ten white boy down low that is not very athletic, not very, doesn't like to run up down the court, is a very physical player. Once they get to the NCAA tournament and they got, they're playing against the Alabama team that goes 10 deep on their roster. Yeah, it's hard to beat them, and that's why, I know Alabama lost Tennessee. I get it. That's why, gun in my head right now, I would say Alabama is going to be my national championship pick, because overall their roster is built for March right now. They have adapted to the modern game of college basketball, and a lot of people ask me, could Nate Oates become the next head coach at Kentucky? And honestly, I don't know, because here's what's crazy thing about college basketball is, yeah, you have your Kentucky, your Kansases, or whatever, but guys are realizing that they can win at other schools. They can win at Alabama. They can win at Auburn. They can win at Tennessee. Guys are realizing they don't have to go to greener pastures just, in chase of a, so-called power, or blood job. Guys are realizing they can win at Alabama. They can win at Purdue. We're seeing a lot of parity across college basketball. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great thing for the sport. I'm very excited about the future of college basketball right now.
Yeah, Frank, I know that you've got an opinion on this, but here's my question to you. Are there 4 great teams in college basketball right now that you think they're going to the Final Four and nobody's going to stop them? Is there even 1 or 2?
I think it's wide open. I really do. Now, I do like Mitch's call on Alabama. I think when Alabama flips on the switch, I think they're going to be the toughest team in the tournament. I really do. I agree with John Brady that, Tennessee plays good defense. They play the boards well. But I don't know if that's going to be enough for a 6-game run in the NCAAs. I will tell you, look out for Kansas. Kansas, like we were talking about earlier, Kansas is always a tough out in the tournament. I just see it's wide open this year. You see that in the odds in Vegas for the championship. Alabama is the favorite, but I think they're only at a 4-1 or roughly a 7-2 favorite right now. I mean, that's still pretty wide open. In years past, going into the tournament, the favorite might be 2.5 to 1, 3 tops. So I think Vegas is even telling you that this year's dance could be wide open.
And I think that's what Coach Cal was saying the other day in the press conference is, Kentucky's still a very talented team. He said there's a lot of teams out there that he's like, if we're a 10 seed, 11 seed, I guarantee there's teams out there that don't want to see us. And that's how I feel about Kentucky and both Memphis, because Memphis is very talented. Memphis is very well coached this year.
It's critical Kentucky wins today. It is critical.
And here's the thing. I woke up this morning. It's going to sound crazy, but I woke up this morning and I was like, Kentucky's going to win today. Like, I have that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Because when I watched and I covered Kentucky on Wednesday night in Starkville, that was a different Kentucky I had covered 2 weeks ago at Ole Miss. And even though Kentucky beat Ole Miss, it was a totally different team because I'm going to tell you guys, Mississippi State deserves the NCAA tournament. I know I'm starting to sound like Calipari here, but Mississippi State is a damn good basketball team. And to tell me that they don't belong in the NCAA tournament, yes. You can't tell me that there are 68 teams that are better than Mississippi State right now. You just can't. There's no other – I get it. We got automatic qualifiers and all that crap. But that's
exactly what it is.
Teams in college basketball right now than Mississippi State.
We could sneak in 7 teams. That's certainly possible come selection day.
And if Kentucky wins today, they get themselves the bubble. I think if Kentucky wins today, because that'll be 2 wins over Tennessee, be a quad 1 win over Mississippi State. So that's 3 quad 1 wins right there. Actually 4, because I think they beat somebody earlier in the year. That's a quad 1 that I saw.
Yeah, I think.
I stress this a lot because I've watched Mississippi State 25 times this year. Mississippi State is an NCAA tournament team. They are. And it shouldn't be based off what happened in November. It shouldn't be based off what happened in December. It should be based on who is the best team in college basketball right now. And you can't convince me that Mississippi State is not a top 68 team in the country.
All right, here's a bright idea from one of our listeners. He just texted us. Thomas Edison, it says, Sylvester, Georgia. You're right about Mississippi State. Why do we have 68 teams now? But what's more annoying to me, I can't decide. I want y'all's opinion. The Ken Palm rating, who is this geek? The bubble teams, and who's in and who's out. Gentlemen, I'd like an answer. I'll start with you. Tom Edison. Yeah, sure. What a bright idea. Well, the light bulb will go on in his head.
I do love the extra 4 teams. I think it gives you a little appetizer on Tuesday and Wednesday leading up to it. I mean, frankly, it's just a little more action that we can put down. Frankly, is what it comes down to. But I will tell you, the first round of the NCAA is like me and my buddies went out there again to Vegas last year. It is truly, if you like basketball and you're a guy, to go out to Vegas for those first 2 rounds of the NCAA, those 4 days are just some of the funnest basketball you will watch. You're in the sports book. The games start at 9 o'clock in the morning. Vegas time goes to the wee hours of the night. You get those West Coast, those late games. I mean, it's a fabulous time. So I like the added games. I like the fact that it's 68. But you're always going to have that argument whether it's 64 teams. The 65th team's going to bitch. Well, it's 68. The 69th team's going to bitch. You're going to have it no matter what. I mean, you even have that again with basketball with the playoff. You'll always have that. There's always going to be a complaint.
Yeah, you're right, Mitch.
And to kind of piggyback on that, I love the 68 teams because I love that Tuesday, Wednesday of the NCAA tournament. Like that's just I get 4 games on like a random Tuesday night, and it's like North Carolina AT&T or whatever, and I'm like sitting there gambling and like betting a lot of money on North Carolina AT&T, but North Carolina Central. But as far as Kim Palm goes, I still don't know who the heck Kim Palm. I think I follow him on Twitter, but here's my thing. I think that, and again, take this with a grain of salt, but Joe Lunardi, as great as he is, Kim Palm, all those guys have way too much say in the brackets, because you can't. I mean, everybody pays attention to the bracketology. Joe Lunardi drops his bracket. What are you going to do? Oh, my God, he's going to be in, blah, blah. People put too much stock in that instead of actually going to watch the games. Because I've been to a lot of college basketball games. There are a lot of committee members. There's, 14 committee members? Those guys don't
see hardly any
basketball games. They don't travel.
That's right. They
I
don't see
go to
hardly
these
any
games. I have watched all these teams play this year, and it irritates the crap out of me that we have a committee that won't go to these games to watch these bubble teams because it's supposed to be about the best teams possible. Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas are 3 really damn good basketball teams, and you can make the case for Vanderbilt right now. Vanderbilt guaranteed you would run table in the American with the exception of Houston and maybe Memphis. They would run the table in a lot of these other conferences, the Missouri Valley and all this stuff. They're going to get 2 teams in just because they're playing well. To me, it should be about the best teams. Who cares about the little man? Who cares about whatever? Because Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, they got some real good talent on there, and they don't give them enough credit.
Well, guys, along the line, Doug Dean is checking in with us now from Birmingham.
Morning, Doug.
Morning, dude.
In the old days, before we had the national championship the way it is now, championships were awarded by people like the Holgate system, who awarded Alabama a national championship in 1941.
That was the Betty Crocker.
Yeah, 9-2. They lost to Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. Mississippi State won the SEC that year, the only time they've ever won it in football. But it was done on a math formula. You're right about Ken Palm and Joe Lunardi. You talk about nepotism. Among the national media, it is so bad, it's horrible. And they just keep hiring, incestuous hiring of the same people with the same narrative. Doug,
Well, it was like the old predecessor, the old Dunkel system in football. Remember that?
God. Yes. And Jeff Sagarin.
I want to say this before I have to get off here because I got to cover this Ole Miss baseball game in 2 hours. I will say this, and one thing that really irritates me as a young guy and a young guy trying to break in is the fact that they give jobs to a lot of these guys. If you watch a lot of these guys, they're not. I don't mean to be bragging. I don't mean to be humble or whatever. But they're not near as good as I am. They're not near as good as passionate as Frank, as Rob, as Doug. They're not as passionate, these guys. But yet, because I don't fit in their box, because I don't fit in their little old, crying liberal and all this other stuff, I don't wear a mask. They don't want to give me the opportunity to be there. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to go to the SEC tournament, and I'm going to kick their ass, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to make a name for myself, and I'm going to go shake hands with Paul Feinbaum. I actually just texted him this morning and said, hey, Paul, I need 15 minutes of your time. I'm going to be at the SEC tournament. I didn't give him a choice. I basically was like, hey, I'm going to be here. You're going to be here. Like, I need 15 minutes of your time to talk college basketball. Even we don't even have to do it on the record. I just want to just talk to you for 15 minutes. And I'm going to do that at the SEC tournament. It irritates the crap out of me when I see guys that are so unknowledgeable, and I see, guys that don't deserve to be paid the big dollars to do so.
Who've been mailing it in.
Yeah.
Who've been mailing it in for a while.
Who just go through the motions and they wear, no more face diapers, people. No more. I love it. Mitch, tell people how they can follow you.
Twitter today. You guys will see. I have waged war with Jeff Calkins of the Daily Memphian. He tweeted out something late last night about Tiger Woods. Well, this morning I woke up a slight little hangover, and decided to wage war. Told him to basically stop being a virtue signaling dude or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like a couple of years ago, I know Rob knows this. He tried to pick a fight with me because I wouldn't wear a mask inside the Liberty Bowl press box, and 10 minutes later, he was without a mask on, didn't have a mask on for the entirety of the game. So I took a picture of him, at the Memphis basketball, and I tweeted one of those pictures out, and I said, hey, maybe stop virtue signaling and maybe pay attention to what you actually do.
Hey, that's the liberal handbook, brother. Do as I say, not as I do.
Absolutely.
Mitch, I know a lot of guys my age are big on the liberal stuff, but I'm a old-fashioned 26-year-old Southern gentleman that I'm a Southerner, guys. I believe in the SEC, believe in the good Lord, and I believe in a lot of good bourbon too. So I'm about to hop off here and go to Swayze Field and then head over.
Doug's got a question. Doug has a question for you,
Mitch. Before you rush off, huge congrats on punching through the barriers and making the SEC tourney. And
thank you.
In that regard, I think you're going to need a personal protector. And I have a very particular set of skills. I'm available for the tournament.
Look, I grew up in Memphis, y'all. I grew up in Memphis. My mom was born in Raleigh. I'll leave it at that. I'm a little. I'm not afraid of a fight. I'm not afraid of a fight.
Memphis
very well documented.
Memphis is
out there.
Memphis
I told him to pull up.
I'm sorry to walk on you.
If you want to meet me outside the Liberty Bowl, I said, pull up. I said, we'll handle this like men. And of course, he didn't show up. And I was like, I was ready to kick the credit.
All right. You may have grown up in Memphis, but you hadn't spent much time in Walker County, Alabama.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yes, sir.
That's a different skill set.
Whoa.
Mitch,
things you don't talk about in Walker County.
That's right. Well, Mitch, get back on with us next week, man. We love having you on. Be careful today. Look forward to
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. I'll be heading I'm going to go to my first ever Mississippi State baseball game at the Dude next Saturday. So I'll be out to Starkville. I'd love to join you guys. I'll probably already start drinking by then, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Hey, Mitch, tell your boys up in Kentucky to put a few more barrels up on the stacks. We're going to need them. Mardi Gras is in full swing.
Yeah.
There's more bourbon barrels in the state of Kentucky than there are people. That's actually like a well-known fact. There are more bourbon barrels in the state of Kentucky than there are actual people.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Love it.
All right, Mitch.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. Y'all, all your listeners, themitchdavisshow.com. I'm going to be there doing Ole Miss baseball today, and then, of course, State, Ole Miss at 8:30. So should be a really fun day of college basketball. And one last thing, go Cats, beat the Vols today. Let's get a win over the Vols. So thank you guys so much. I'll see y'all next week.
All right, thank you. Look, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, Rob Browne, Buddy Martin will be checking in a few minutes. Do some roundtable. Doug, deer season is over in Alabama for Doug. We're going to hear his exploits in the deer stand with Ishmael Borg and Brother Hezekiah and his other Amish friends in his hunting club after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Dean, I know a couple of weeks ago you shot with a bow from 127 yards, a 287-pound, 16-point buck with a 167-point spread. Tell us about it.
Well, it's that's proprietary, Rob. I don't like people to know the coordinates of this veritable Jurassic Park that by the grace of God, I've created on the Cahaba River in Marion Junction. Oh, look, the location. Now, I'm going to get Duff in a minute. Duff, you hadn't called, you hadn't wrote, as the joke goes. And I hope Rhonda is on the mend. I'd love to get an update on how she's doing. But Rob, I would compare our deer season, great in terms of venison in the freezer because you have to harvest does to keep herd balance, and that's a subject for another day. But our buck season was akin to the Auburn 2012 football season.
Ooh.
Not a single SEC win. And the Bucks were there. We got them on camera. That doesn't help you, though. They are smart, and that's why it's special when you finally get an opportunity to release an arrow into one of those majestic whitetails. But that just means they'll be that much bigger next season.
Yeah, I do. Look, let's bring in the coach, Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, with Frank Duffy, who's studying at the New Orleans Mardi Gras Institute on Human Behavior. Frank Duffy, thank you for your research. America is proud of you. Doug Dean in Birmingham and Buddy in Ocala, one of America's most beautiful places, the horse capital of the world.
Thank you, misspoke. I think Frank is teaching at the capital.
Hey, I think I've certainly qualified as a senior fellow by now. That's true.
Sure. Yeah.
An endowed professorship.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm now an expert on gymnastics. After last night, watching that remarkable scene in Baton Rouge as the LSU Tigers upset the number 2 ranked Florida Gators, and just amazing what's happened in that sport. And as a football maven, you guys know we talk it every night on my show. Trying to learn to branch out a little bit, and I've been learning a little bit more about it. And Frank, we've talked about it some, and what a performance by LSU last night, and what a scene there.
Crazy.
And, oh my gosh. I mean, think about this. I'm going to go old school on you here. When I was a young kid growing up, LSU had an athletic director named Jim Corbett. And he's a colorful character, and he built that arena and got it going. And Maravich, and he used to say his goal was to be trampled to death by a crowd going to an LSU basketball game, because in those days they didn't draw many people. Maravich changed all that.
Yeah,
but
they were playing in the Cow Palace, which was the agriculture center.
Yeah, I don't have to tell you, Frank. You know all this, but the point is that to say now gymnastics is outdrawing basketball everywhere.
Crazy.
I think 14,000 last night, I believe, and the performance these ladies put on and what's going on, and we know about what the NIL deals are. So it's something that's, you talk about a culture change. It's a long way from SEC football to women's gymnastics, but I'm digging it. I really am, and I'm learning something about it. So just wanted to say kudos to LSU for what a spectacular performance last night and a big win for LSU. And now,
buddy, here's the crazy thing. It's Mardi Gras this weekend, and the kids are off of school. My daughter's off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That crowd stayed in Baton Rouge as opposed to coming to New Orleans because there's not much Mardi Gras stuff in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
They stayed there to fill the PMAC. That's crazy. That's incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable. So anyway, so I just wanted to get that in. I can't believe I watched 2 hours of gymnastics last night with my wife, but I did. Rob, you got to get into this, Rob.
Well, Audrey and I were watching highlights of Dick Button and some of the great figure skating of all time. Doug Dean sent me the DVD, didn't you, Doug?
Well, think about it, buddy. Look at the 2 biggest sporting events in the last calendar 7 days in the SEC were women's sports. LSU playing South Carolina undefeated right before the Super Bowl, and then the gymnastics. Those are two of the biggest events were women's sports. It's crazy.
Now, look, it's still football, okay, out there. But I got to tell you, I mean, like right now, there's a lot of buzz about Florida's softball team. They run ruled everybody they played. I mean, they're just killing it right now in softball, and they're winning 10-0 and 11-1. And so, anyway, there's stuff to watch on TV that not related to an SEC football game. But now I can't wait till football starts back again. But in between, there got to be other things,
Hey guys, Rob? I was going to comment that one of the things I love about, as Buddy said. By the way, if only I had Buddy's radio voice, maybe I could get a gig on ESPN.
I don't know about that. That wouldn't get you anything. But anyway,
Buddy's got a great voice.
What I love about gymnastics in particular, and we could talk about softball when it really hits its stride. There's a lot of, politically correct narrative in the media bemoaning the lack of attendance and revenue in women's basketball, WNBA. And you do see, regrettably, you look at some of the TV venues for women's college basketball, and you'd like to see bigger crowds. But it's not that fans are being mean, much less sexist. It's something about the product or the marketing. Look at gymnastics. I can't explain altogether why, but they're doing something right in the marketing of women's gymnastics. When you at Auburn, for example, when you have a Sunisa Lee who's got that kind of cute factor and star power, and what an athlete, and you could go around the SEC and they've got stars like that who might be the next Olympians that become a household name. But work on, don't guilt and shame us, ladies. Work and media, work on the marketing, the product. Maybe they should play more of Nolan Richardson's 40 Minutes of Hell, a faster brand of basketball and trapping and so on, since they can't slam dunk. But let's stop with the political aspect of this and just work on the marketing.
Let the merit speak for itself.
Yep, absolutely. Buddy, got a question for you from Stephen A. Foster, way down upon the Suwannee River near Live Oak, Florida.
Yeah.
He says, people are naive to think about any possibility of objectivity in gymnastics or ice skating. And I know Doug Dean was a figure skater. He used to skate with Scott Hamilton as a young lad. There is no objectivity, is there, buddy?
Well, it's always the Russian judge,
The East German judge.
Yeah, I don't understand how it's scored. I still can't figure out the score as it goes along. I'm trying to keep up. Well, I don't understand who's ahead here, And also, there's a lot of things like that. One thing for clarity, when a player is on the floor or doing the whatever they're doing on the exercise, they should put their name up. They never mention their name. We don't know all these women's names. You shouldn't watch the kid from LSU, whatever her name is.
Olivia Dunn?
No, the long name, the real long name. I watched the replay this morning trying to figure out who it was. So they could help us out a little bit if you want us to get involved by telling us who's doing what. And they do a good job of explaining the exercise and why they did it, but they just don't give us enough basic information. It's like in football. Give me down and distance. Huh? I want to know what's going on and tell me the players. But it is, you're right, Doug, it is remarkable what they've done. And they've just scratched the surface. I mean, they just scratched the surface what they're doing here. And they're out drawing everywhere. Oklahoma, look at all these schools. They're doing 14,000, 15,000 people. And here's the funny part about it. Attendance is slipping in college football, right? It's slipping. I mean, it's already great. It's great, but Florida's getting ready to shrink its stadium, which makes some fans unhappy.
That's wild.
But I can understand why, because the experience of going there is hard. It's hot. The seats are uncomfortable. The parking is terrible. The concessions are out of sight. Until recently, you couldn't even use your phone there. I mean, these are all things going on in college football stadium everywhere. Now, they will make it better. I don't know if they're going to take it down from, from 90 to 75 or whatever. I don't know. But they got to make the experience better because, quite frankly, unless I'm covering the game, which I only do 2 or 3 times a year, I'm sitting right there in front of my big screen TV. It's a lot more convenient.
Well, I know one thing: when the head ball coach was walking the sidelines, they'd have tap danced on the surface of the sun because that place was loud and those keys were like ringing in the first quarter. I think they just need to get back to having some success, and that would take care of itself.
Well, they're going to sell the tickets, but it's just not. It used to be a waiting list 20,000 long.
Yeah,
it just changed. But things change.
Buddy, to your point, and Rob, I think didn't y'all have the Auburn's AD John Cohen on recently, Rob?
Yes. Yeah.
So if this is repetitive, I apologize.
No,
but
not at all.
The Cohen was talking about, he was in a bunch of interviews that are easily accessed, and he was talking about the facilities planning, the arms race. They're already putting, I think, $30 million into the baseball park, which will be amazing. But he was asked specifically about Jordan-Hare Stadium, which is, everyone gives it credit for being a tough venue to play in a big game. But it's showing some wrinkles and needs more than a facelift. And he said in the north end zone, which for those who are not Auburn people and are there all the time, that's not the big jumbotron in the south end where I usually sit. It's the north end, with an unacceptably small jumbotron. But where he said they're likely going with it, which sort of supports this discussion, is the incredible demand for premium seating. And I assume he means skyboxes.
Skyboxes. That's how they're all going, skyboxes. Yeah,
they'll do it like LSU. They'll probably ring that on that north side skyboxes. That wouldn't shock me.
And so I guess where we're headed is you're going to have a bunch of uber wealthy people in comfortable air-conditioned skyboxes. Right. You'll see a bunch of empty seats in some games and TV. And you know what? It won't matter financially because $100 million per school is on its way with this TV contract.
Right.
Taking the fans out of it and taking the media out of it, quite frankly. I mean, the media, it used to be everything if Furman Bishop was at your game or whoever it was,
Yeah.
And now they don't really give a crap. Rob, you know that. You were in that business for a long time. And now it's like, if you come, fine. You don't, fine. Well, we'll see you later, whatever. And so because the media, the people who write and even broadcast don't mean that much because they get all their money from ESPN.
Well, you look at ESPN Game Day. Look at the way there's so much virtue signaling going on there. It's sickening. Come on, who dresses these guys? You got to laugh. And it's like, men wearing clam diggers, long pants with no socks, that come down to their calf. Seriously, who are they trying to appeal to?
Capri pants should be left for women only.
Absolutely. Clam diggers. That's what they're called. But I tell y'all that you better get the media involved and you better keep the fans involved. And Doug, to your point, and Buddy as well, you're shrinking these stadiums. And that's been a trend for the last 10 years to sell premium seating. But the passion, the loud crowds and all like that, it ain't going to come from the luxury boxes. They're like the people sitting at the theater in the opera boxes, with their glasses looking out. You want that raucous crowd like you get at WrestleMania. That's what makes college football fun.
Super Bowl was just how the Super Bowl morphed many years ago with the corporate seats as opposed to the fans of the different teams. That's why you get that corporate feel. Hey, Rob, I'm going to have to run. I got to get on the parade route, but I wanted to let Buddy know. Buddy, I got a sweet gig. I just found out that I got the gig this week. I am going to be the in-stadium announcer for the Detroit Tigers spring training games in Lakeland, Florida. All 16 games this year. Wow. So not a bad place to go hang out between Phil and Tampa for 5 weeks. It's giving me the hall pass so that I can go and do my dream of doing pro stadium announcing. So if you get a chance and you want to come down, I think the Rays are maybe coming in for one of the games. Come on down. And I'd love to host you. Doug, you too, Rob, y'all come on down for one of those 16 games. We'll have a hot dog and a beer, sit out in the sunshine.
Sounds awesome. That's Lakeland's a
Hey,
great old venue.
Duff,
Yeah.
I hope you'll remember us little people when you're famous.
No, brother. Hey, man, I'm not doing that. I was lucky to get the 5 weeks. I don't think I'll ever be getting called up to the show, but it will be cool to announce starting lineups and announce the games of Major League Baseball.
Awesome.
I'm really
Congratulations,
excited.
Frank. That's wonderful.
Congratulate. That's awesome. I mean,
Thanks, boys.
hey, I love baseball, and Frank's going to be studying Mardi Gras today, and I'm going to say this too, Buddy, Doug, Frank, y'all all remember Tim McCarver. He passed away a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
And
RIP.
Yeah, and a CBHS, Christian Brothers High School graduate, my school, lot of relatives, the Phelans, the Jordans, and a lot of people in Memphis, and got a great picture last night from my friend Steve Phelan. It was a picture up in the broadcast booth at a game with his son Brendan and Brooks, and Steve Phelan with Tim McCarver. Steve's father and Tim's mother, they were siblings, so they're very close to him. And Tim McCarver just, he was so cool. And it's 21 years in the majors as a broadcaster.
Hell of a catcher.
Hell of a just. And Tim McCarver Stadium again. That's where we learned about baseball. But Frank, like Doug says, don't forget all of us out there. Maybe an autograph or a wristband after a game.
Well, I will tell you, it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. With what I'm getting paid per hour as a part-time worker, I'm not going to quit my day job if Rhonda even allows me to have a day job. But I tell you what, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a kick doing it.
Hey, Duff, pro tip from someone who escorted you to and back from the Auburn LSU game, which
yes, sir,
should have been an Auburn win, but that's
yes.
At least it helped us get Harsin gone.
Yes.
Pro tip for you, Duff.
Yep.
The Woodford pregame in Tampa.
I love it. Okay, you got it, buddy.
Yeah, and the official beer of the Detroit Tigers is Hams is the beer you're looking for.
Hey, and I am going to have to give a shout out to Ernie Harwell, the great Tiger announcer, and start off every game with, "Oh, doctor, it's a great day for Detroit Tigers baseball."
WJR AM 760 Detroit Tigers baseball. Right after this,
right. Yeah, that's right.
Everybody, we're going to be right back.
Y'all have a great day.
You two will be right back with more Sidelines. All right. Frank Duffy is gone back to study at the Institute of Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Buddy Martin, Doug Dean. Let's get going on here in the final segment here on Saturday's roundtable on Sidelines. Buddy, first off, start off with, got to ask you this question. I've never asked you. Your favorite band of all time, country, rock, blues. I'm curious what it is. Then I'm going to ask Doug that, because that says a lot about who you are.
Well, I mean, look, I go back a little further, and I had to pick someone not in the dark ages. I love the Eagles. I just love the Eagles, like everything they sang and whatever. So I had a few other people that I like the Gatlin brothers, because I knew them.
Yeah,
I love what they did. But in terms of a band and the hits and the songs and what they did, their stuff still stands up today. You can watch their concerts and. Man, they just were just so good at writing and singing, and just I think probably Desperado might be my favorite all-time song.
Yeah, Doug Dean.
Well, buddy, you just scored points for journalistic objectivity, and Rob knows where I'm going with this. Gator Nation is appalled that you didn't invoke the great Tom Petty, Gainesville product.
Well, I mean, Tom Petty I love, but my favorite was the Eagles. I'm sorry, Tom, I love you and all that, but he ain't. I don't go to bed listening to his albums at night.
There you go.
Yeah, I love it. All right, buddy, you're talking about college football attendance slipping a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Go back 40 and 50 years ago, the crowds were nowhere nearly as big. The stadiums weren't either as they are today. That 1984 CFA decision, Chuck Ninus, the CFA, Oklahoma, Georgia, the lawsuit, basically it just the last 40 years, basically, football game, every football game's on TV. Yet stadiums have all expanded and everything. You think maybe this is just a temporary reset? I want your thoughts on that. And then Doug, I want your thought, because I see the interest in college football isn't going away. It's just that there's more people. Hopefully Doug will be back with us, but hopefully there's more people. I think there are, at least on the outside of the stadiums, that aren't going in, like I've never seen as well. So your thoughts on that?
Well, over the years, I've seen that very thing happen. I've seen with some ball games there have been, but not. I think of one that comes to my mind: 2007, Florida at LSU, where there are really as many people outside the stadium as there were in it. And even the Baton Rouge police said there were 90,000 people out tailgating. It's frightening, by the way, to try to walk through that crowd when you're coming out of a game. But yeah, I think that's still going on. But you got to make sure the legacy is in place and the right things are happening for the next generations. You just can't assume by tradition that all young people are going to inherit the love for college football, because it's a different world. As a matter of fact, it's cool now to be against everything traditional, and so pretty soon that flip-flops on you. So what are you going to do to get the third and fourth and fifth generation? And with states like Florida, where the population is fluctuating all the time, no more like, give me the Gators. I grew up with them, because there's a lot of people who aren't from here. Most of them aren't. So I think that, along with the inconvenience of things at the stadium, I mean, think about it. Would you go there and pay thousands of dollars to sit in a seat that kills your butt when you're sitting in it, and you can't get to the bathroom, and you can't park anywhere? I mean, it's just all. Who would want to do it? You got to be crazy to keep doing it. If you're wealthy, you got a skybox, you got preferred parking. That's great. But I'm sorry, that's the 1%. And so I think they're addressing that issue, and they figure, well, let's take it. We can't be all things to all people. We can't sell a ticket for $3. So let's just take the upper echelon, and we'll go build skyboxes, and we'll charge everybody $10,000 for tickets, and we'll make our money from ESPN, and basically screw the average Joe. That's what it is.
Doug Dean.
I want to pick up an observation the whole group was making earlier, especially Rob and Buddy. And it will be interesting to watch with the expansion, bringing in the blue blood, iconic brands of Oklahoma and Texas, and moved up a year early, 2024. So there's a lot of electric games that, with a lot of initial curiosity, fans are going to have with the expansion, with the 12-team playoff. Nonetheless, I would forecast, guys, and love to hear your take, that you'll have, like we sort of do now, you will have any given weekend until you get into the really big games leading up to who's going to win the SEC, who's going to play in the SEC championship game and in a position to make the playoff. You'll have 30 or 40%, maybe as high as 50% of the games will not be overly compelling, except to the most rabid fan, who I think the data shows that's going to tend to not be millennials and younger. It's going to be the traditional guys like us on the radio right now on the show. And so what does that mean? I think what it adds up to is TV will still cover it. They'll still make money because of contracts. But the brand of there won't be the electricity in the stadium. You saw it during bowl season, Rob, that some of the games were unbelievable, like USC and Tulane. I mean, packed stadium, an unbelievable, sensational finish. But then you saw some stadiums dead empty, like in Birmingham, and not worth watching at all. And it'll just be interesting to see what they can do. Are they going to pipe in synthetic crowd noise for the TV broadcast. I don't know.
Yeah, it's changing. I mean, look, I'm holding on for dear life for my remaining years so that I can squeeze every ounce out of this great game of college football that I love. But we're changing all the time. I'm in my business that I have, the GatorWayMedia.com. I'm trying to figure out where our audience is shifting. They no longer want long writing necessarily. They just want to get the headlines. We refuse to put out a services for clickbait. We don't do that. We write longer stories, and I'm convinced that people like to read good writing and good reporting about their teams, which is what we do. But it's really hard to get to the morass out there of all the other social media when you're so-called one of the social media, which has a stigma attached to it because people think the best social media is a problem today for a lot of people, and it is. So it's hard to know. You just like to say, okay, here are the people who love it. Here are the people who write and talk about it. Let's get them together. There's too much in between to figure out how to get the product in the hands of the people. So it's hard. But, hey, look, it just starts with a passion, desire, the love of the game. I mean, look, I said I was glad for football to be over for a few minutes, catch your breath around here because it's been a tough couple of months. But now in another week, I'm jonesing for it. I won't give me more football. I got to have football. The spring football is not going to do it for me. I mean, some of my friends are coaching in that league, XFL, Shane Matthews, whatever. Good luck to them. I'll watch some, but really, it's just all about Labor Day and college football for me.
Hey, buddy, I'm curious too. What's right in front of us, Rob? It has, and I'm sure we'll continue to bring guests on and delve into the SEC's big decision looming about how to set up the schedules. And
yeah, really.
I might change my mind on this as I study it more, but I think I lean toward I believe it's called the 7-1 format, Rob, that you have no divisions. It's one conference. And the reason I like that, if I understand it right, every SEC member school would play every other team at least every other year. And so you have a situation where somebody just through the luck of the draw has an easier schedule any given year. But what that would also mean, if you look at Auburn, the same applies to every school. I'm sure it would likely bring an end to the annual Auburn-Georgia series,
and that's the problem. And that's the problem, Doug, right there you're talking about. I mean, what is important to us as consumers and fans of people's sport? I mean, those kinds of series, you can't eliminate those. I mean, would you kill the Army-Navy game? I mean, think about it. You we hadn't worked in this game. No, you start with that. What are the games that got to stay? And you work your way down. Any system that precludes that is a bad system. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to lose some games. If it ever gets down to Florida, Georgia, there's going to be some hell to pay.
Yeah.
Let me give you, there's three things I think they need to do to bring more people in to watch college football and college sports. Number one, keep your damn politics, your virtue signaling, your wokeism and all that crap out of our face. Okay. Shut up and dribble. Okay. Number one. Number two, it's time we lift the Berlin Wall, the Iron Curtain of the 9/11. We're scared to death of everything mentality. Fans have to park miles away and hitch rides to get to the stadium. You can't park here. You can't. Quit saying what you can't do and start telling fans what they can do. Okay. And number three, make football and college sports appealing to all the fans. Make it a populist movement because it's going to be so boring and sterile if you have nothing but the corporate people and people that have no vested interest in these schools and these games where they are. Say what you want, but these fans that we think are crazy and people call them whatever names, and he didn't go to school there, he can't pull for them. Yeah, he can. There's no rule that says you can't. Give me that passionate fan that scrapes money together and does whatever he's got to do to get his family and people there at the games, because he's going to always be screaming and hollering and have your back. Yeah, you got to have the corporate money, but let's don't make it boring.
The fans have got to speak up. I've said this 100 times. It belongs to the fans. There's an example right here in my hometown. I'm so angry about this right now. Is that, and just 60 seconds, it's a junior college basketball program. been around for 60 years, one of the best in the country. They hosted the state tournament, won a national championship. The president decided to kill the program, kill it. He's not from around here. He didn't know what it means. He killed it and took the space, gymnastic space for academics. And we sat here and let him do that. I am so angry about that, and people I know are, because it doesn't mean a thing to him. It's flat killed the basketball program. Are you kidding me?
You talk about the men's basketball program.
Men's basketball program at Central Florida Junior College. That's good. CF College, College of Central Florida. And he's a good educator, but he went and got out of bounds. He went where he shouldn't have gone, and they let him get away with it. And so it's like, what the hell? We're ever going to say no? We're not going to put up with this? It's that kind of renegade thinking that just gets people crazy.
Well, career bureaucrats, Doug, and academics, and they're ultimately they're government employees. They need to learn to treat that money like it's their own, like you would, Doug, or you would, buddy. And remember, they have a duty to serve.
Yeah, and Rob, I'm reminded of the great Coach Bryant's his rebuttal to the professor of, let's say, of chemistry, whining and moaning that so much money was spent on football or athletics compared to academics. And he said, well, the first time 100,000 people show up to hear a chemistry lecture, get back to.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I think universities and their boards, their trustees, their leadership, university presidents, and athletics leaders, you have to decide who you want to be. What do you want the total college experience to be like? And I would just say, and it's almost prima facie evidence on its face that if you don't have what Rob we like to call the front porch of a university, a beautiful, you don't be winning national championships every year. That certainly helps. But if you have a vibrant, spirited athletics program, and that's part of the total experience for young people, that can only enhance. Now the burden's on you to also have academic excellence, and I think by and large our institutions in the SEC would hold up well on any scrutiny therein.
Oh, look, Doug, you said it so well, and I think that we need to get back in the business of embracing the fans, and again, the free market. Let the free market. Don't shame people into attending sports. Don't try to say it's your whatever if you don't support women's sports. The free market will support what they want to support. And buddy, I think what you do is so damn important. The Buddy Martin Show, Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Buddy, don't ever discount what you do. What I find is that the more people know about their history, their traditions, and their heroes, the harder they will fight to make it even better going forward. And you cannot cave in to the fly-by, drive-by, soundbite crowd out there. This is just a pothole in our road to the top. But I'll say this too. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed country in the history of the world. Remember that. Quit whining. Think about how blessed you are. We got great guests like Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, John Brady, Mitch Davis, Buddy Martin. Buddy, along the line of what Doug puts it in the vernacular so well, and you do too. And you're not sacrificing your standards. Okay. True grit journalism. I wish you were teaching journalism today at the University of Florida to remind a lot of these arrogant, young people that think they know everything because they know how to use an iPhone. Buddy, close out the show. Take us into the end zone. Handing off to the 6'1", 192-pound sophomore from Ocala, Florida, Buddy Martin.
Yeah, I wish that was 192. I was more like 162. Anyway, I mean, look, I want to complain because I get to work with two young journalism students that I love here. They're great young men. Kyle Francis Kyle Curtis is becoming one of the true young stars, and he's a kind of kid that I love working with, and he gets me inspired. And Matt Quadraro. So I don't get to teach in class, but I get to teach in Gator Bay, and they're on the show with me. So yeah, I love what I do. I just hope I can keep on doing it. And we could use a little sunshine down this way. I don't mean the kind that comes out of the sky. I mean, the Florida program needs a little help. And we'll talk next time about what's going on with the quarterbacks and the situation and Billy Napier. We didn't mention his name all day today about what he's got in plan. I hope I can find out what he's got going on and who the quarterback's going to be and all that sort of stuff, because spring ball is around the corner. And like the old saying from Jones Ramsey, the Texas SID, down here, there's two kinds of football and spring football. That's it. And so that's what it is. So anyway, yeah, thanks, guys, and enjoy being on the program with you, Doug. And good job, Rob. Keep it going, man. Your energy is great.
I love it. And I'll tell you something, Doug. Closing comments. We got about 40 seconds. Mildred said to tell you, Doug, you making me holler with all that football talk.
Hey, well, first of all, I'm glad you mentioned the lovely and vivacious Audrey. She's probably still smiling from that game the other night.
Yes, she is.
And I won't lie, the rest of us were smiling that night, not if you didn't pull for Alabama, but we got a great finish to the basketball season coming up, and some surprises are sure to happen. But Buddy, it's just always great to hear your sage and wise take on all things college football.
Absolutely. This is look, we're back with you Monday through Saturday. Sidelines, www.sidelines.live. Sync us from anywhere and check out the website always, and check us out on Google, Rob Browne. See you Monday. We're out.